What the fuck? Hello guys, Nerd Person Shooter here. I was gonna make this into a rant with gameplay footage type thing, but this isn't worth the time and effort to do that. The game isn't even worth doing that for. You guys may not have known this about me, maybe I never brought it up, but I was always a fan of the Tron movies. Yes, even the second one, which a lot of people hate. I think I actually prefer the second one over the first one. You know, even though the writing and acting is a little spotty, I love the visuals of Tron Legacy. I think Jeff Bridges has only gotten better with age, you know, and I love the music by Daft Punk a lot. But I still like the original 1982 movie as well, you know. I've always wanted a good Tron game. Always. And I never really enjoyed a Tron game. I tried the 1982 arcade game a few times when I was at Fun Spot, didn't like it. I actually got it again on Xbox Live before it shut down on 360, got it again for $5. Tried it again, still not into it. It's so outdated, it's like bad. I'm also not a fan of that disc of Tron game too that came out like right after. I hear Tron Evolution is okay. I actually bought that last year, but I haven't played it yet. That came out shortly after Tron Legacy. So, you know, every time a Tron game comes out, once in a blue moon, I'm like, God, please let this be good. Please. But after this past week, I've given up all hope. Not just for a good Tron game, but for the Tron franchise in general. I mean, they're really beating this into the ground. Tron is dead. The Tron franchise is dead. Now, this new game called Tron Catalyst is... well, it's not good. I'll tell you that right now. I was planning on making this into a My Thoughts video, which I guess technically it is still My Thoughts, but this is going to be more of a rant than just a simple thoughts video on the game, you know, assessing the game's qualities and stuff, or in this case, lack thereof. Tron Catalyst is an isometric action-adventure game. There are different areas to kind of explore throughout your time. Of course, different shortcuts open up over time, and you can just revisit locations easier. There's fast travel much later on, so you could revisit different areas. There's even a city part that I kind of like, actually, where you get to use your light cycle to, you know, drive around the city. You know, it's not particularly big. But God, where do I begin? Let's start with the story. I don't even know if I'm going to get the synopsis right, because honestly, I found it to be one of the most unengaging, uninteresting, one of the most boring stories I've experienced in a video game in a long, long time. You play as this girl, this program named EXO, she's trying to escape the city, the grid, or, you know, at least the grid. But she can't because she is stuck in a time loop. Yes, this is a time loop video game where you have to provoke, you know, the yellow programs or whatever they're called, the core, in order to get information, and then loop back, reset the loop, and then, you know, do all this stuff all over again, go here all over again. It is mind-bogglingly repetitive. Now, I read the reviews before buying this game, okay? The reviews weren't great. People say that, you know, the game starts to get old by the time it finishes, so it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's only like an 8 to 9 hour long game. Maybe 10 hours if you're really thorough and want to explore literally everything. It is a $25 game. I got it on sale for $18 because it didn't get great reviews. I'm like, okay, you know what? I still want to play it because I'm still really itching for a good Tron game, right? I got it on sale a couple of weeks ago, I think. It was on sale. It was like 33% off, so it was 18 bucks instead of 25, or no, 16. It might have been $16 instead of 25. Anyway, I was like, okay, maybe it's worth it for that money. But in my opinion, this got old by like the 2 hour mark. Because not only is it so goddamn repetitive, the objectives and stuff, going back here and then going there again, and looping back, and then, granted the game gives you checkpoints and stuff when you unlock shortcuts, or yeah, the game gives you shortcuts, I mean, but it doesn't really help its case. It is such, by design, an incredibly repetitive video game. Story-wise, none of the characters are particularly interesting. None of them, really. You got your main character who's like all about good and giving everyone a chance, or and then you have supporting characters that help her out, and you have to have the same fucking conversations with them because at the beginning of every loop, they don't remember who you are, of course, because you're looping, you're glitching out, you're looping, so you gotta have like the same initial conversations with them and shit. And oh my god, and it does this like it's a good thing, or it makes you go through and skip lines of dialogue that you've already read many times before. This is part of the reason why I don't like time loop games. And you know what? If I had known that this was a fucking time loop game, if I had at least done a little bit more research into how the game is played, I would have passed on it. Because even though I was able to beat the game, and I was able to finish all the side objectives and stuff, and I did get my money's worth out of it. I played for 9 hours. I got, 825 gamer score. I would have preferred using that money to buy another month of Game Pass and just play much better games on the Game Pass service. Because I did not like this at all. Now, there are a couple like non-binary characters. People who look like they're males but they sound female. Or, maybe the other way around. I don't quite remember. And look, I'm all fine with that. I'm all good with like the inclusivity thing. But if you're not making them interesting, if you're just putting in non-binary characters or transgender characters just for the sake of having like a inclusivity check mark, I would just rather have interesting characters with good, compelling story arcs. This is part of the reason why a lot of the writing in the gaming industry has gone down the drain. We want these communities to feel included, of course, but we also want them to feel like they're good, strong characters. And I feel like a lot of these developers, all these writers, they're using this as kind of like a crutch to be lazy. We're like, oh well, we don't really have any good ideas, but here's a non-binary character. Yay! We see you. We see you. Non-binary people and transgender people, we see you. But we're not going to give you interesting characters. We're just going to check off this mark like a corporate fucking shopping list. And yeah, like I said, none of these characters are interesting. They're not. I don't fucking care. I don't care what orientation they are. I don't care what race or ethnicity. I don't care what what gender they identify as, what sex they are. I don't really care. I just care that they're interesting. That's part of the reason why Dragon Age the Veilguard didn't click for me, is because none of the characters were particularly that interesting. I didn't hate that Tosh was, non-binary. I just didn't like the way it was handled about, like, having everything on the nose and explained directly to the player without them figuring it out for themselves. That's another thing I don't like, is that, everything is on the nose. Like The writers don't want to depend on the players to interpret the game how they want them to interpret it. These morals that they include, it is like directed to the player. It's like, no, like that's not what makes good writing. What makes good writing is that it's felt by the player, not told to the player. And Tron Catalyst unfortunately falls into that trap. So, story sucks, characters suck. What about the gameplay? I mean, I've already said that I do kind of enjoy the driving, even though it's a little on the slippery side here and there, you know. And the boost doesn't really do much. It doesn't really get you that far. But maybe if it did, I would probably just end up crashing into a building. But the combat is, I don't want to say the combat is terrible, but it is very basic. You know, you have your regular attacks, you have your regular combo, you can dodge attacks, you can parry, although the parry window is a little broken. In my experience, in my 8 hours with the game, I found that you have to parry like right before the enemies attacks glow. Not during they glow like the game suggests, because whenever I did that, I would just end up getting hit. So I had to experiment. And I found that the best time to parry is in fact like right at the very beginning of their attack window. So you gotta really memorize their attack pattern because the parry mechanic is a little on the busted side. But it does work. It works. You just have to do it a little before the game suggests that you do. You can also throw your disc at people, which is cool. You can even kick your disc to kind of like boomerang it around, have it go, you know, between enemies and stuff. And that's cool. And I will say that the game has the identity of Tron. It has the aesthetic. It looks like Tron. The visuals are good. The music is pretty good. You know, kind of has that synthwave neon thing going for it. Still looks like Tron, but aside from that, the combat is incredibly basic. There are bosses that don't really feel like bosses. And that actually got old after like the first few hours, that got old too. Not quite as fast as like the repetitive nature of the game, but the combat also got repetitive for me as well. You can get alerted if you don't pass like a security checkpoint, like if your data fails or something. Which this is all linear stuff that you need in order to progress anyway. So you have to go through this. The objectives are incredibly linear. There's no like multiple paths. So you have to get alerted. The whole city comes after you. Not in the sense of like GTA where you're constantly like being chased, but whenever you go in a vicinity of like yellow guards, they engage combat with you and you have to beat them. Or you could run away from them and escape, especially with your light cycle, but there are patrols like almost everywhere in the city. And the thing that's a little frustrating to me is that they don't stay dead. And what I mean by that is, like, as soon as you leave that area of patrol, they literally spawn in like right outside the camera, right outside the isometric camera. You would walk back and they would all be spawned. You don't need to loop for them to have to respawn, and that's a design flaw in my opinion, because it enables the player to essentially grind really early on when you really don't need to grind in the game. Not that I feel any sensible person would want to do that, but it enables them to basically get all the upgrades like within like the first few chapters of the game, I think. Anyway, it's annoying because that also interrupts your exploration. When you want to explore and be like, okay, I've dealt with these guys. Now I'm gonna go in this building. But then you come back out of the building and they're there again. It's like, come on. I didn't like this game at all. This is the worst game of the year that I've played so far. I know there are a few games that came out this year that are worse that I haven't played, like Mind's Eye is most likely way worse than this. I saw Mind's Eye and that was like broken. That game looks absolutely unplayable. This one is fully playable. There's no bugs or anything. Like it's a fully playable game, but at the same time, it's like by design so flawed, so bad. Like the story is so bad that I didn't even care to follow it. Like I've already forgotten what most of what had happened, and I just finished it a few days ago. Like I don't even remember most of the characters. Combat is incredibly one note. It is there just for the sake of having a combat system. So, for my final score, I was actually planning on giving this a 5 out of 10. You know, when the credits were rolling, I was like, okay, this game wasn't great. There are problems, but there were still a couple things that didn't mind. Like, you know, the atmosphere and stuff was great. Some of the lore was great too. It really delves into the lore of the Tron, you know, verse. But then once the credits stopped and I was at the main menu, I had discovered that the game wiped my whole save. It deleted my whole playthrough. What the fuck? What kind of game does that? Now, I will say, and I forgot to mention this, the game does give you like a point of no return warning. Like it says, like before you face Khan, the main antagonist, before you gather your allies and face Khan, make sure you do everything you want to do. And I'm like, okay, I've already kind of wanted to do everything I wanted to do before seeing the ending, but I was at least hoping to like reload my save before a certain point. Like I was hoping, like any good game would do, it would send me back to the point of no return, like Clair Obscur Expedition 33 does, so that I can go back and, you know, get whatever missing codex I needed or whatever miscellaneous achievement I haven't gotten yet. Instead, nope, it wipes your whole fucking playthrough clean. You're done. Once you beat this game, you are done. Okay? You're not allowed to continue it. You have to play through the whole game over again. There's no manual saves. There's one autosave in a playthrough, and you can apparently you can only have one playthrough at a time. What the fuck? This is 2025. This wouldn't even be acceptable in 1995. And I'm fucking baffled by this choice, by this decision. I am absolutely baffled. Comment down below if you played a game that did this to you, that wiped your whole playthrough without explicitly stating that it would. Okay? Comment down below if you played any shitty fucking game that does that shitty fucking thing, and I will make sure never, ever to touch that game. Ever. So, I'm not playing this game ever again. I'm done. Fuck Tron Catalyst. I'm going to give this game a 4 out of 10. And that is being generous. A 4 out of 10. I almost feel like giving it down to a 3 out of 10. It's a shitty game. With shitty design choices. Okay? Shitty story. Shitty character. Not shitty characters, but just boring characters, uninteresting characters, really repetitive gameplay, really okay combat, good atmosphere, good lore, decent music. Yeah, 4 out of 10. I think that's more than fair. So, yeah, I'm done with Tron Catalyst. If you had a better experience, all the more power to you. But this wasn't it. This was not the Tron game I was hoping it would be. The Tron game that would finally be a good game. Anyway, guys, rant over. Stay tuned because hopefully within the next week or 2 weeks at most, I will have another Game Pass review episode that includes Gears of War Reloaded, which would probably only take me like a couple minutes to explain to you the additions or improvements that they made. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. I've taken too much of your time. I just had to fucking vent and rant. Every once in a while, I'll play a game that is so insulting or just flat out disappointing that I have to rant about it. So this was one of those times. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to me. Signing out now. Fuck. Wipe your save. Fuck you.